Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm TX141, but you may call me Paul. Welcome you all to a brand new Ace in the Day gameplay for the arcade mode of War Thunder. In today's episode we are going to be shining the spotlight on a subscriber, featuring and introducing Wobobobo of the Unity clan. Wobo, as I'm going to refer to him from here on in, is flying out in his P-51 Mustang as the later stages of patch 1.49. The Tier 3 battle rating 3.7 American fighter aircraft, a review of which I've already performed and may be seen using the link in the top right corner of your screen as displayed now. Wobo is flying out on the air domination map Stalingrad Winter and is most likely using the combined setup of 400m gun convergence, a 20-minute fuel load and air target belts of 20mm cannons, although do not quote me on that. Wobobobo kickstarts, and I should say Wobo, kickstarts their game by flying out towards the side of the map. And what is interesting here is that this is a rather unique way of side climbing in my opinion. Usually when we go into a standard arcade game we will see two types of players. Those who climb towards the centre of the map, i.e. go for the head-on engagements or climb towards the centre and then turn around and break away, luring opponents in towards friendly areas. Alternatively, you get those who side climb, but once they reach a certain altitude, either go for an engagement or try to break in towards the centre of the map to trigger a dogfight. Wobo is going to take a much different approach to side climbing. You can see here he's double backed on himself, going into a sort of loop climb if you will, or a spiral climb, but a very extrapolated one. It's performing a circle if you look at it on a 2D surface. And what this means is, Wobo has actually picked up quite a bit of altitude from the starting altitude spawn point of approximately 2,000 metres. He's now up to 3,800 metres altitude. And whilst this has taken some time, and it is likely perhaps that some enemy fighters would have been able to outclimb him given the circumstances, it actually places Wobo in a very good situation. Having climbed at approximately 15 degrees all the way through the climbing stage, paying good attention as we can see here to climb angle over sheer power in the engine, i.e. the Allison engine, Wobo is now at 4,150 metres altitude and with a speed just shy of 400 km an hour. Means in a very good position, right at the peak of the altitude performance range of the P-51 to strike the first opponent when he decides to pick on a target, of which he's already detected a PBY flying high, as well as a P-38 which is attacking one of our friendly fighters on our screen, has just knocked them out. Wobo goes for the P-38 who is breaking up towards him, picking up kill number 1 before converging on the PBY-5A Catalina for kill number 2, and then just to wrap this up we've got an F4U-1 Corsair who is in a very low energy state, having finished off climbing in towards the centre of the map, and Wobo concludes with a triple kill. So straight away we can see that very slow approach has worked very well for Wobo, allowing him to pick up 3 kills and minimise the risk of taking damage back, or indeed entering a dogfight. And that's one of the things we picked up with the P-51 when we flew it, that the plane does not like to dogfight with opponents even if they are less manoeuvrable by comparison with the average fighter at the battle rating of 3.7. The P-51 is not suited for turn fighting or indeed for lower speed dogfights. But we digress. At this point Wobo's decided just to level out and essentially captivate the higher altitude regions of the map. This is very important in air domination games, as we all know, or we usually know, or for those of you who are new to this channel and new to War Thunder, having an altitude advantage in air domination is crucial for allowing your team to win, simply because you can force the enemy team to have to fly at lower altitudes and eventually perhaps even force them to fly below the 500 metres altitude cap height, i.e. the height at which you start capturing the point in the centre of the map. If you're below 500 metres altitude you will not be able to cap, and if you exceed, I believe it's approximately 4,500 metres altitude, you also lose the ability to cap the central zone. And at this point we can see that Wobo is just taking his time. He's looking for a brand new target, simply because the majority of the enemy fighters are down low. And this does encourage a boom and zoom style of play, which will work hand in hand with the 420mm cannon armament of the Mustang and its ability to pick up speed while in a dive. But at the same time we can see here, Wobo is correcting very early on to get the shot on the F6F-3 Hellcat, because the manoeuvrability of the Mustang locks up at increasing speeds. And here he picks off an F2A-3 Buffalo for kill number 5, before carrying through once again for his second triple kill of the game, knocking out this MiG-315 BK. So already 2 passes, 6 kills, all a little bit of patience, careful consideration and accuracy with its brilliant armament in the P-51. And this demonstrates very quickly that it's not about rushing in all the time to pick up the kills. If you take a measured approach and pick on those who are unaware of your presence, you can pick up a lot of kills very quickly through short bursts of violence. And we look up and see a P-26P shooter on our team, flying very high, which is a rather interesting Well, conundrum. I've never seen that before in a game. But we digress once again. Since at this point we can see that we're approximately 5 minutes into the game, and Wobo's already got 6 kills, and hasn't really had to put in much effort per se in order to actually get to this point. And this echoes one of the key mantras that I personally have as a pilot in arcade mode. Some days you do not have to put in as much effort as you may think to pick up a lot of kills. But now, the amount of effort required is going to increase, because Wobo's picked up on a P-51 Aerocobra flying off towards the other side of the map, and trying to gain altitude. At the same time he's also picked up on an enemy Wellington, who he'll be able to converge upon as the P-39 is harassed by a friendly MiG-3 on his team. The Wellington tries to duck to the side in order to bring its rear gunner around, but the P-51 Mustang can cut a Wellington to pieces a lot quicker than the rear turret on a Wellington can, or we would presume so, meaning that Wobo adds a 7th kill to his tally. At this point he breaks up once again and has sufficient energy, having stayed above 2,000 metres altitude, or indeed above 3,000 metres altitude, to allow the Allison engine to work well enough and at the same time to accumulate the speed which enables the Mustang to have its ultimate manoeuvrability threshold, i.e. within that region I believe we said of 350 to 450 km an hour, if not 400 to 500. And straight away this means that Wobo can start to converge on the P-39N0 Aerocobra, who is climbing quite hard. And at the same time the Aerocobra is flying off towards the edge of the map and may try to use essentially the teleport out and back into the map trick in order to rebuild a position of altitude and energy. Some pilots will do this and you have to adapt to this, so Wobo is going to continue flying over but then head on a perpendicular path or a right angle path to the P-39. Stating his intentions, sorry for muffling my words there, that he does intend to engage the P-39 but is not going to pursue directly. This encourages the P-39 pilot to come around for a head-on, and head-on passes in the P-39, well, they're risky. You've got a lot of machine guns and a 37mm cannon in the nose, but you have to be very well placed in your shots. Meanwhile, the 420mm cannon on Mustang, you can be a little bit more aggressive, as we see here, with a number of shots registering, but Wobo breaks off the head-on just a little bit too early in my opinion, and this means that the Aerocobra can break past and clip him with some machine gun fire. Wobo at this point gives pursuit, with the Aerocobra being in a position of lower speed, having had to climb up and come around towards Wobo. He picks up a critical hit on the P-39N Aerocobra, but does not achieve the kill or a crippling shot, which means that the Aerocobra cannot fly in a straight line or indeed dogfight anymore, at which point the Aerocobra decides to break underneath him, most likely by the means of a split S. At the same time Wobo breaks over the top here and decides to let the Aerocobra go, or at least extrapolate the distance. Now I'm a little bit mixed in my thoughts on this. The Aerocobra is still in a dogfight able state. We can see this here with the Aerocobra pilot continuing to fly level at approximately 500 metres altitude less or 750 metres altitude less than Wobo's position. And this means that the Aerocobra will now pick up energy and be able to build an equal position to Wobo, which is something which really goes against the mantra of the P-51 Mustang. If your opponents are able to build up a similar energy state to you, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. And the P-39 is no exception here, because it is just as manoeuvrable, if not slightly more manoeuvrable, than the P-51. For a second head-on, Wobo decides to defect out to the side rather than go straight head-to-head, and this means, as he breaks over the top, the Aerocobra cannot get a clean shot. But here he breaks the nose down rather than using his superior energy in order to say hammerhead over the top of the P-39 and force them to stall out. This means that we now enter a direct head-to-head turn fight, with another head-to-head pass at very close range and both pilots missing one another as they're too afraid in my opinion, or at least they're too skittish to go for the head-on, which is acceptable seeing as it's quite a close range and both planes will be just as deadly at that range, say 300 metres or less. And the P-39 is now again being pursued by Wobo but breaks underneath via another split S. And Wobo does not pursue here, or at least consider a pursuit. He may have, but that's just the line of reasoning I have to go by from looking at this replay. And this means that the P-39 can once again break away and build up an equal position of altitude and speed. And this again means that the P-39 will now gradually gain an advantage over the P-51. Of course I can understand perhaps Wobo's frustrated here. He's put a lot of 20mm cam rounds out and may be reloading, because you have 500 rounds, but even those can be dispatched quite quickly. A number of those rounds have gone in on the P-39 and we've seen bits fly off, but clearly not bits that are crucial to the P-39's health or ability to dogfight. This means that Wobo is now breaking off to the side as the P-39 goes off to the other side of the map, and he's looking around for another target. Coming around, We can see that a PBY has just spawned in, and a B-25 will spawn in just behind the PBY. It hasn't quite registered in yet on our screen. Wobo's going to go for the kill on the PBY before breaking through on the B-25 Mitchell, with the PBY coming for a head-on and being quite a quick kill, making number 8. And then the B-25 should appear dead centre in our screen right now. There we go. And now this is a bit of a moment where you could consider this a bit of a disastrous moment, but I'll try and rationalise this. Wobo goes for the head-on. The B-25 breaks underneath, but the front gunner of the B-25, and I will emphasise this, the front gunner, not the pilot's guns, set Wobo on fire. Fortunately, cutting the engine, cutting the fuel tank flow off, it would seem, Wobo has been able to prevent the fire from spreading to the rest of the P-51. And this is rather rare in the P-51 in my experience. If the plane catches fire, there's a very good chance it will burn to death. At which point he comes around and tries pursuing the B-25, doing some crippling damage via a critical hit, and it's most likely the elevator has been knocked out. Or according to the replay, the elevator has been knocked out in the B-25. But there's no time to rejoice now. The Aerocobra is now back on the back of Wobobobo. And this is the dangerous part, because Wobo is going to use his energy in the vertical in order to try and cause the P-39 not to have a shot on target. Also rolling out here to force the Aerocobra to essentially not be able to get the shot onto target. This is very well played by Wobo, but the thing is now, we're in a position where we cannot get the advantage because the P-39 has similar manoeuvrability and has an engine which performs just as well because it is another Allison engine. And the P-39 pilot here, we should note, is rarely using their rudder. They are using their elevator and aileron control surfaces, not all three. And what this means is the P-39 pilot is gradually gaining the upper hand, or is in an equal case of manoeuvrability to the P-51 of Wobobobo, but will never gain the true upper hand. But this still means that Wobo is going to be in a position where he's being constantly harassed and tailed by a P-39 pilot who is really set on getting the kill here after Wobo's caused so much harassment to the P-39 to some extent. Again, we go back into the vertical, and I commend Wobo here for using a helical spiral or helical torus here in order to try and force the P-39 to overshoot or run out of energy. We can see here that the P-39 pilot again is relying solely on their ailerons and elevator, not their rudder, to stay behind Wobo's P-51. If they kicked the rudder around here, it could be a lot more dangerous, but now a friendly P-41 Kitty Hawk has latched onto the back of the Aerocobra. But we can see this is getting even more worrying because the P-40 can't get a clear shot on the Aerocobra. The Aerocobra can't get a clear shot on Wobo. Who is going to go down first? Will it be the P-39 or will it be Wobo? We can see that the Aerocobra is now dropping inside the turn circle of Wobo before breaking up to try and close in on him. And he's getting a little bit tighter with every coming turn. And this is getting even more worrisome with the Kitty Hawk not being able to get a clear shot onto target. And at such low speeds, i.e. less than 350 km an hour, the P-51 is gradually losing more and more speed, and this speed is crucial to allow the P-51 to perform well. And we can see he's even got landing flaps extended to try and keep his turn circle as tight as possible. But now, fortunately for us, we've got another friendly interdicting on the situation. I believe it was a Yakovlev Yak-1, and the P-39N is finally down. And this means that the smoking wreck that is Wobo's P-51, even though it's flying rather well, can continue with its onslaught. And we've got quite a bit to go, approximately another 3 minutes. We see straight away that a number of enemy fighters and bombers down at lower altitudes. So now it's a case of Wobo being smart. He won't be able to use the P-51's strengths completely here, but is instead going to have to pick his targets well and try to pick off those who are not too much of a threat, or at the same time are a threat which can be neutralised well before they can get onto the back of him. He goes for a little bit of altitude here, having granted himself the space to do so, with the enemy threats neutralised. I believe it was a Beaufort and a MiG-3. We see here that he's levelled out, and he's picking up on another target, somewhere off on the horizon. Or is he looking around for another plane that's coming on his left? I'm not quite sure here, we can't see the map or the radar that you get in a standard arcade game. But looking around, it seems as though his friendly fighters are clearing out the skies quite nicely, meaning he can reconsolidate his altitude even more rapidly. And again, having a little bit of an additional energy bonus, in terms of altitude and straight line speed, will always work well with the P-51, so Wobo knows his plane very well. A P-39 has come into the middle and is being harassed by a friendly Spitfire and Yak-1, but Wobo's picked up on an enemy P-3 and he's going to cut it to pieces for what will be kill number 9. Sorry, kill number 8. Unless that was an assist. It may have been an assist, my apologies. Having levelled out, we see an IL-4 coming into the fray along with two enemy fighters down low. They seem to be in the midst of a dogfight with a P-51 on fire and the IL-4 trying to break through, so I was going to cut down on it. And I would say he hasn't got much ammunition left here because he's being very conservative in his shots, and they've worked well to pick up a 9th kill before coming around on an A20G here, and he's going to use the same process of very brief burst fire in order to conserve ammunition and gradually whittle the A20G down. He's also being shot at by the turrets, and really I wouldn't keep looking around. Once you're committed to a target, you've got to go for it, especially with an A20G, because those rear facing 12.7mm machine gun turrets are absolutely dangerous. Nonetheless, he's picked up a double ace now with a 10th kill in the bag on that A20G. He's levelled out and flies towards the sun to see a Beaufort and an SU-2 right underneath him. The Beaufort's practically dead, but the SU-2 is a threat, having just taken down a Heinkel HE-51A. And he cuts this beautifully here, coming right down on top of the SU-2 and picking up a pilot kill with the initial burst. Very well played and very well spent on the energy there, cutting the engine and also bringing about the combat flaps at least to make that really tight vertical turn, or either split S, and then coming down the SU-2 with an initial burst to wipe it out of the skies. With 11 kills to his name now, Wobo's coming around once again and seems to be inspecting his plane from the cockpit to see what damage there is. There's not too much other than a couple of holes in the glass, but there's probably more damage underneath the surface, we just can't see it. We see in the centre of the map we've got an I-153 that spawned in, is going for a friendly Hurricane, and I-153s are absolutely deadly at close range, but we're not going to get in close, as Wobo's going to demonstrate. And at the same time here he's cutting his engine. Now this may be the case that the fuel load's run out, and that's why I would postulate it's a 20-minute fuel load. Alternatively, that fire from earlier ruptured the fuel tank in his wing, and as a result he's got very little fuel left, if none at all. Regardless, he switched off the engine and now comes down the I-153, picking up kill number 12, before following through onto a Kitty Hawk for kill number 13, and that will be the last of this gameplay. And whether he's got fuel or not, it's another brilliant double kill, showing once again how Wobo knows his plane well enough to know that if you can pick your opponents in a line, the forward 20mm cannons and the speed and the dive of the Mustang will cut them to shreds. And the game is definitely now coming to a close with only 30 seconds left, as the zone is gradually being captured and the enemy fighters have all been knocked out. Another one's just spawned in, but his team's now captured the zone, and indeed he has as well, contributing by being at 1,120 metres altitude, and he can just fly along or glide along and wait until the game ends. He's safe enough to do so in his altitude state and indeed his energy state. And I would definitely say he's out of fuel, because he hasn't switched the engine back on for a good minute or so now. And that's the game, ladies and gentlemen. Well played, and now let us take a look at the post-game stats and then give our final review. "13 kills and 3 assists, that's very good, but no matter what kind of a game we have, there are always positives and areas in which we can improve. For Wobo we have 3 main strengths here, or at least in my opinion, and the first one is the climbing technique he used at the start of the game. This is the first time I've ever seen someone use a sort of ring routine, as I would call it, in order to gain altitude whilst maintaining overall energy state. And what I mean by that is that Wobo gradually built his altitude up to 4,000 metres altitude without his speed dropping below 300 km an hour, by comparison to my own climbing technique, in which this would occur because I am sacrificing kinetic energy for potential energy, or speed for height. In Wobo's instance he used a gradual climb angle, which meant the climb took a little bit longer than perhaps I would normally take, but at the same time this 15-degree angle of climb meant that he could keep his speed above 350 km an hour, and at the point of levelling out at 4,000 metres altitude, his speed was in the region of 375 km an hour, meaning he was ready for any engagement that was thrown his way. This brings us on to our second point, which is patience, not just in terms of the climbing technique, but the patience of picking targets. Wobo opened up on 2 triple kills. 6 kills in 2 passes is incredible, even for an experienced pilot, by very carefully placed boom and zoom passes. And this echoes the concept of waiting for the opportune moment when targets line up or in close proximity to one another for one to strike and pick up more than just a single kill on a single pass. And Wobo demonstrated this perfectly. And this was echoed later on in the game with target selections such as the bombers, including the Wellington, the PBY and the unfortunate incident on the B-25, as well as the final double kill on the P-40 Kitty Hawk and the I-153. We come on to our third and final positive here, and that is evasion. Wobo, despite allowing the P-51 Airacobra onto his tail, was very good at evading the incoming fire, via the deployment of a barrel roll at the initial point of having the P-39 on his 6, and also diving away and using the dive strength of the P-51 to try and take the fight to lower altitudes, and then continue to turn with the Airacobra on his 6, and try to force friendly fighters to bring the Airacobra down. I would say that Wobo has had a number of fighters on his tail in the P-51 before, if not in given aircraft, in arcade mode, and he knows how to keep them off his 6, or prevent them from getting a clear shot onto his backside from time to time. But this means we now have to come on to our areas for improvement. For our first area of improvement, we have to consider the concept of using an energy advantage in a 1 versus 1 situation. In particular, we are considering the initial pair of dogfights against the P-39N Airacobra, where Wobo going into those dogfights had a significant energy advantage which was not exploited to its fullest in my opinion. The Airacobra pilot had to fly out towards the side of the map to build altitude, at which point they performed a 180-degree turn and then climbed towards Wobo at a much more gentle angle of climb in order to initiate a head-on pass. In the first pass, I can understand Wobo may have been frustrated because multiple 20mm cannon shells hit the Airacobra, as we saw, but did no overall damage. But in the second head-on pass, where Wobo banked out quite early and broke over the top of the P-39, we saw that Wobo was in a situation where he could have perhaps used a hammerhead turn to come right down on top of the P-39 rather than break down onto a level altitude playing field with the P-39 as he did. And at this point this meant that the energy advantage which Wobo had was eradicated to the extent where the two planes were equal and the dogfight could be in anyone's hands. And this is something I personally feel Wobo needs to work on, not in the P-51 per se, but just in general. Because if you have an energy advantage going into a dogfight, it is ideal for you to exploit it unless there is a specific reason for you not to do so, as having the energy advantage will enable you to get your guns onto target a lot faster in some circumstances and pick up the kill well before you are at risk of being killed yourself. For our second and final area of improvement, we come onto the concept of hesitation. And our most notable example here is towards the end with the pursuit of the A-20G Havoc, and this may have been influenced by the unfortunate series of events when Wobo went to engage the B-25 Mitchell. We digress a little bit, and we now come back onto the pursuit. At a distance of approximately 900 metres when coming in behind the A-20G, Wobo decided to check his 6 for any potential quandaries on his tail. And in my opinion this is hesitation, because when you are attacking an attacker with rear facing 12.7mm machine gun turrets, you do not want to be checking your 6 when you are well within range of the machine gun turrets. Instead you need to have done this earlier on before you entered this convergence range, at a distance of say 1.5 kilometres, at which point you know your 6 is safe and you can commit to the attack. At a distance of 900 to 800 metres you want to be fully committed, or bailing out at this point, bailing out of the engagement, not your plane. If you are not committed, this can lead to your downfall, as the A-20G pilot only would have needed one of their gunners to get one clean shot onto Wobo's plane in order to bring it down. We saw how quickly the P-51 was set on fire by the B-25 Mitchell, and that could have happened again. Regardless, Wobo, if you're watching this video, I do not want you to think of the areas of improvement as direct criticism. See them as areas in which, if you make slight modifications in your playstyle, if you decide to take them on board, you can become an even better pilot and get even more consistent games like this if you do not already do so on a regular basis, and you can up your game even further. This replay was a brilliant one and concludes our week of P-51 Mustang gameplays, or so it would seem, and I would strongly recommend anyone who is interested in flying the P-51 to do so, because both myself and it would appear Wobo have enjoyed this plane to a significant extent. If you feel I've been too critical or not harsh enough of Wobo's gameplay today, why not let me know in the comments section below. Alternatively, you can leave a like or subscribe for future subscriber spotlight gameplays on my channel. As always, I've been TX141 ladies and gentlemen, but until next time, take care and good luck in the skies.